as I was saying, sorry, that there is a nice sized tomato. That's as big as your hand. It probably weighs close to a pound. And then there's another one turning. So tomatoes did okay this year. I'm not a huge tomato person, or reversely, I'm not a tomato person. Excuse me. But Laura, she likes some tomatoes. She likes more of the plum and aroma tomatoes, which I didn't have any plum this year, or even grape tomatoes. I couldn't find any where I bought these at. I guess I probably bought them either too late or they just didn't carry them. But anyway, so definitely I think I have 25 tomatoes here. Next year I'll definitely probably not have any more than 25. Everybody grows tomatoes, they're easy to grow, and that's the thing. If you try to sell them, everybody has them, so you have automatic competition. Now we come down here to a couple things that I'm definitely going to grow again next year. This here, these are spaghetti squash. And if you look at this one plant, there's actually two plants here. All my clumps of squash and zucchini, there's all 2 plants per little mound here. That's just the way I left it. But these things are loaded down. If you look here, like these plants grew up to this ring, which this ring's probably about 30 inches, and then they grew right back down to the ground. So if you'd stand these up, these would easily be 6 feet high. But these are some nice sized spaghetti squash on there. This one here is nice one. And the thing is these are still flowering, still producing, which is just amazing. And then you come down here. So definitely I'm going to plant some more of these. Laura nor myself like squash or zucchini. I could eat zucchini bread, but you make that with the green zucchini or the green squash. So I'm definitely going to do a couple of these. I'd like to maybe just save one of these seeds, let it dry out, and just collect the seeds instead of having to spend, you know, $4 or $5 on seeds next year for that. Here we got some crookneck. You see one in there. I picked a couple off of these. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 plants. There's another one. Again, you know, they're nice plants, but I don't eat squash, and I haven't really been able to sell too much out front. Now here, this one here is a patty pan squash, which are neat. See that down there? That's neat looking. But these should be loaded down from what I've read, but they're not. However, the zucchini, your regular, you know, these are onyx green zucchini. There's, I think, 30 plants. These are doing outstanding. That's a perfect size, maybe even a little too big. And you see how small the plants are, and that's 2 plants. You know, again, no fertilizer, or minimal fertilizer, poor soil conditions. You see the clumps here? This is what, at my foot, that's what I was working with last year. You know, so I can guarantee next year they will be bigger and better. But again, I don't need these, and there. I'm leaving a couple of them on here. This one probably one just to see how big it will get and let the seeds develop, dry out, and then next year I don't have to buy seeds. I can plant as many as I want based on however many seeds I get, and it's just not going to cost me anything really. Then we have one last one up here, and then here, as you see, these are ripped out. These are the broccoli and the cauliflower. The heat got to these this year. Some of them didn't produce heads at all. Some of them started producing heads, and then it happened like this. They burned out. And this one here is actually putting on side heads, so I'm leaving that. But it was definitely due to the heat. Too much heat this summer, and no matter how much you water, the heat still affects the plant. See, this one bolted, well, weeks ago. You see that? That one's going to be ripped out. Same thing with the cabbage in here. Some of these have little heads on them, but they're turning orange-ish, yellow-orange, and they're splitting. So definitely, I mean, conditions right now are okay, but during the summer, a couple weeks ago, when we had those, 3 or 4 weeks, of 90-degree days, that didn't help. Okay, so now we're at the bottom of the garden. These are my first row, if you remember, my yellow bush beans, and even though how poorly they look, they still produce quite a bit. This 150-foot row, I probably picked, I don't know, well, I still have one last picking to do, but I picked at least, I don't know, 7 gallons worth. One day I picked them was a 5-gallon bucket in one day, just off a 150-foot row of plants that have been not fertilized virtually at all. Maybe gave them 1 shot of liquid fertilizer, but weeds and competition and everything, and they still produced. So that's definitely going to be planted next year. Just that the bush bean, they're just hard on your back and on your joints because you're constantly squatting down or bending down to pick. So I'm definitely not going to do as much next year. Maybe I'll do a 50-foot row. We'll see. And then here's my 2 rows, obviously, of pole beans. And these things, we're going to walk back towards the top. These things, next year I have to buy or get some kind of netting. I thought it would work with the twine, but they don't put out little feelers. They do this. They wrap around the verticals. So here there's no verticals, so they don't wrap around it. So that's one thing that I didn't know about. I never grew pole beans before. But if you even look at some of them here, even with my rigged up setting, there's a bumblebee right there pollinating this. And these are loaded down. And this thing here, if you stretch this up, this is 6.5 feet up to there easily, closer to 7 feet some of these. So definitely pole beans. Probably not as many as I did this year, but pole beans are easier to pick. Like I said, they're still flowering. They were producing probably 3 weeks already, 2-3 weeks. I've been picking those like crazy, which I'm very happy about. Anyway, I know this video is very long, so I'll probably be splitting it up into 2 parts. And then here are my peas. The peas, snap peas, 150-foot row. The peas, these are basically done. I picked about 2 quarts yesterday, and I mean there's a couple little ones, and a couple of the more healthy plants are still producing, are still flowering to produce, but they're virtually done. I don't think any of these plants got much more than 3.5 feet tall. Again, no fertilizer, and you can see the weeds. The weeds just kind of popped up one day. When we had that big drought summer, it was fine. There was hardly any weeds. But then when we started getting rain, it just kind of took over. But next year, I just have to be better weed management. But anyway, next year, definitely more peas. Laura likes the peas. She likes coming down here to the garden with me and just picking them right off the plant and eating them raw. I actually sold quite a bit of peas. So I'm definitely going to do another 150-foot row, possibly even maybe 300 feet or 200 feet. We'll see. Here are my cucumbers, which didn't really do anything this year. This whole row, I have these stakes up. I was going to put up the trellis system here for them to grow up, but some of them aren't even, 6 inches tall. A couple of them here, these are the Market More 76 variety, just from that one pole to here. It's a 20-foot row roughly, and there's maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 8 plants, and there's only one of them that's putting anything on, and that's this one right here, this plant. And this thing, anybody that knows cucumbers, by August 1st, your plant should be bigger than 30 inches tall if you put them upright. So I do have leftover cucumber seeds for next year, so I won't be purchasing any. Here's my sweet corn, which you can see is tasseling amongst the weeds that are tasseling, but this heat during the summer, and even with watering, again, no fertilizer. I didn't have money to spend on fertilizer this year for lots of things, but some of these are starting to put cobs on. Some of them have no cobs at all and probably won't put any cobs on. Some of them do have some, so I'm hopeful that we'll get maybe a couple dozen out of this, which would be very nice, because I was definitely really looking forward to having homegrown. Go out to the field, pick a couple ears for lunch, boil them up, and eat them. But next year, definitely more sweet corn. Looks like my battery's dying, but I have other batteries. And here, my watermelon. Again, not doing anything. They're growing now, but it's way too late. It's way too late for them to put on fruit right now, because we have another month or so growing, and that's not enough. My pumpkins, which you do see here, these are growing very well. Actually, they are very stunted during the hot summer, but these things are taking off. In here, there's probably maybe 5 or 6, 8 plants, and we got pumpkins, not like crazy, but let me find you the biggest pumpkin I have right now is this guy right here. And that's a decent size right now. It's probably, I don't know, bigger than a softball right now to compare it to. But definitely pumpkins next year. Probably not as many, or many different varieties. I do want to try doing the honeydew or the cantaloupes again. But instead of buying, 3 or 4 packs, buy 1 pack. And just see what happens. My gourds, they're doing okay. These cucumbers are doing half decent, but they're not putting on any cucumbers. This is a Swiss chard. The thing is, I don't eat Swiss chard. Laura doesn't eat Swiss chard, so it's basically just feeding the bugs right now. My carrots, these, I'm hopeful that these will put on something that are at least half decent size. But again, the weeds, no fertilizer. So this is what you get. Here we got, bugs are out today. We just had a little bit of rain last night again. Here are some more yellow beans. I started pulling some out. They're doing well. Onions are doing well. And that's it for the field trip. Thanks for watching.